Here we have spawning in the red on the southeast, playing as the Malians, is XFactor, and spawning in the north, or the southeast, excuse me, spawning in the northwest as the Holy Roman Empire, rather appropriately named, is Holy Chuckfrancis, one of the newest additions of the Holy Clan, as we see it rampant around some tournaments. Seeing them in Lowy the Legends, War Chief Club, and now making a good presence in the Meta Plays tournaments as well. Chuckfrancis make it to the semifinals, so congratulations to him. Looking to make it to the finals against Baltoon. Now, this is another matchup. We talked about the Holy Roman versus Delhi matchup being notoriously one-sided. But we also need to talk about the Malians and the Holy Roman Empire being notoriously one-sided, more so in favor of the Malians. The HRE has a rather difficult time dealing with the Malians and their original skill set and their fast castle Farimba garrison build, which seems to be the only way to play Malians at this point. With the Malians getting Farimba garrison and getting it earlier than the HRE can usually get to castle, the Farimba garrison is essentially just a better Burgrave. So the Malians can do their fast castle and they can do it better than you. So going fast castle is rather difficult. Maybe Chuckfrancis tries to do some feudal aggression with HRE. Has some feudal play, maybe adds a second town center, or something like that, and God forbid, as the HRE actually make an archery range. HRE does have the capacity to make archery ranges, and we might see him here because archers are a pretty good unit against the Malians, except for those dreaded javelin throwers that have just so much ranged armor. Makes it very difficult for those archers to get through. But things like the Dantos, things like the Musafati warriors, stuff like that. A lot of the trash units in the game, which is an AoE 2 term, I guess, units that don't cost gold. Those trash units are pretty good for dealing with the Malian Empire. For the HRE, gold is something that they like to get. Obviously, they have the inspiration on the gold, but they can have Regnitz Cathedral, which gives them that twice as much gold trickle. And again, with XFactor playing the Malians, with those pit mines providing that passive income, and with the houses around it and stuff, they just do passive gold income better than you. So it's kind of like the Malians just beating the HRE at their own game. So I'm curious to see what Chuckfrancis has up his sleeve in terms of any kind of particular build order or any kind of particular strategy to deal with the Malians, because it is going to be rather difficult for him. For Feudal Age, it's going to go up a little bit quicker. It does have the Aachen Chapel with 8 villagers building it, and will probably get it done around like the 340-ish mark. XFactor has yet to click the button to go up, but will be doing so as 5 villagers scurry across to get that Saharan trade network, that 5,000 HP outpost that can garrison 10 units. It's just insane. And the fact that it comes with arrow slits already makes it a very difficult place to raid. Your initial gold mine being largely protected from the Saharan trade network, and just having a little bit of foreshadowing here, Chuckfrancis looks like he is going to go with the second town center with his 8 villagers on gold, and with this Aachen placement giving him the increased capacity to do so. The food income, as we could see, getting the second town center, food income, you only need 4 to get that 50 food in order to keep pumping out villagers successfully, which is what Chuckfrancis is doing. But going all into wood and stone to get that second town center, staying in feudal just a little while longer. As far as where he's going to put that second town center, we have 2 deer patches right next to each other, and a berry patch here along with the wood line over to its east, which could be a good spot. And it looks like these 8 villagers are working their way west, and they might put it down in that particular area. And it looks like they're hunting the deer before they do so, making sure that their walking time is very reduced. in order to get that food income. So it looks like he will be dropping it there. X Factor on the other side, just doing Malian things, getting all of that food that he needs. And if he needs a cattle or two, he might end up doing it. But as far as the passive gold income and the amount that he's actually gathering, on the gold mine, his macro looks pretty good, and we'll get up to 600 pretty shortly. And it looks like Chuckfrancis only going for the second town center, pulls them off of the stone. Now I'm curious to see if this is going to translate as he puts 4 villagers back to gold. I'm curious to see if this is going to translate to any kind of feudal unit production, or to just go up to castle with 2 town centers. Having the 2 town centers, and in a perfect world having all of those HRE villagers inspired, means that your economy is going to be bonkers. It's really going to pop off. It's going to be rather difficult to inspire all of these villagers, but at least around the wood line they will be. And for these sheep, if the town center has a waypoint in that particular direction. Another good thing about the Malians against an HRE player is just because HRE, it takes them a while to really get going if they're going to do that kind of feudal aggression thing. As we see at the 6-minute 30 mark, Chuckfrancis just starting to build these stables. And we'll start to make horsemen, I would imagine, into feudal age. But while on the other side, X Factor's fast castle is essentially untouched. He has a solid amount of gold for it, and actually with this mill doesn't go for the cattle instead. His cattle's only 90 gold, and can get some food gathering so these villagers don't have to do this, but this is a lot of wasted time. They went all the way out past the Saharan trade network to these deer over on the western front here. I might use all of these to build the Faremba at some time, but it is going to take a little while for that to be completed. Does go with 2 stables, adds an archery range with those stables, so you probably will be getting some archers and some horsemen, and these kind of trash units is kind of the best that you can do against the Malians and what they have at their disposal when the Faremba actually becomes online. And when it does, we'll go over all the units that it can actually produce. The reason why it's so good is because it only... Well, actually, there's probably a list of reasons why the Faremba is good. But all of the units cost gold. All of them are reduced by 20%. So you really only have to worry about one resource, essentially, is gold. And he's going to go with a stable with it. Probably going to have a little bit of sulfur production. But Chuckfrancis going with a little raid on the south. These Malian villagers are susceptible to raids, especially on these southwestern deer here outside the range of the trade network. So Chuckfrancis just trying to be a little nuisance, trying to be a little annoying in this particular area. Does have the trade network that's going to protect them against some of these, but if he doesn't move those villagers, both of them are going to go down instead of just a one. Looks like only one's going to go down before Chuckfrancis pulls his way in the opposite direction. But about the 840 mark, 845, Faremba Garrison going to go up and look at all of the units that are at the disposal. Can make Donzos against these horsemen. Can make Musafati warriors if the HRE get up to castle. Can make just normal archers. Can make javelin throwers, which are rather expensive. And it looks like javelin throwers are the first unit he's going to go for. Rather peculiar against mostly horsemen, but against those horsemen, instead of just the javelin throwers, he's going to be adding sofas. These sofas are heavy cavalry, which is going to be difficult for the HRE to deal with, especially in feudal age. Those heavy cavalry are going to be good against men-at-arms if Chuck decided to make any. But is only continuing to pump horsemen out of the stable. And the javelin thrower will provide a little bit of defensive structure for these horsemen. But now as I want to take a look. I want to wait for this first sofa to pop up because I want to see its stats. Scout just getting absolutely encircled by Chuck's horsemen. Surprising that he backs up a little bit against these javelin throwers. They don't have much in the way of health, and not much in the way of melee armor, which is a whopping 0. But take a look at these veteran sofas. 195 health. 20 attack with +3 against infantry, which is pretty good. So I think he's going for more of a sofa and javelin thrower kind of composition, and with imported armor, increasing the armor of sofa by 2 in both the ranged and the melee, is going to be a formidable unit against the HRE, especially in feudal age. But as soon as I say that, Regnus Cathedral going up for Chuck. Doesn't have too much in the way of map control. It looks like XFactor able to get back a little bit of it while dealing with raids back home. But for the Regnus Cathedral, as all of the XFactor units decided to move up instead of dealing with some of these raids, and it looks like 3 total worker kills for XFactor. What's nice is because of the passive income, because of the fact that all of his units essentially take gold, it's pretty easy to be at an economic disadvantage, and he could still be okay with that. Now Chuck just going up to Castle Age. Take a look at some of these relics. We have one on the north side here. We have 3 that are in a nice little bunch over here on the western side, and one all the way over to the east side, which might be difficult for Chuck to get. But if he's able to get map control in the south area, he'll be able to pick up a relic. And the first prelate trying to get that safest relic. But this veteran sofa is having different ideas, and I think they're going to meet each other almost immediately. Chuckfrancis with a good presence of mind, making sure he is keeping his eyes on the minimap, making that prelate retreat. So now with army count 22 to 15 in favor of XFactor, with most of them being javelin throwers, these horsemen, although they are going to be good against javelin throwers with that increased, with that extra +9 to range, the knights being good as far as tanking for the javelin throwers, and just an superior unit to the sofas being a cross between a knight and a horseman. So the knight being that little bit of heaviness, that's a little bit better. It'll be difficult. But now with all these javelin throwers coming in, just because of their base damage, the fact that they can do 10, only having the 2 ranged armor does absolutely nothing. And look at how quickly they're able to disintegrate their counter from a distance. Having this mass of only 20 and being able to one-tap all of them is just fantastic. XFactor also making a unit composition switch. And we see our first Donzos on the battlefield. And now look at these sofas actually eating this outpost with just 1 and getting emergency repairs on that. But these sofas are not going to go down by that outpost, emergency repairs or otherwise. On the back end, I would like to see XFactor maybe going for a little bit of a monastery. Get some monastery action, maybe get some of these relics, take them away. They're deciding to continue to pump out units and doing good in terms of gold control. You know, he's not going absolutely insane with the gold. And then adding these extra Donzos in for a little bit of fire damage, so that outpost is going to get taken down, but is using his resources rather effectively. This pit mine, now with this large gold vein and all of these houses around it, having so much of a benefit for passive income. And it looks like these villagers, there's about 16 on them, plus the passive income he's just able to consistently pump out of this Farimba. Military count, 49 to 24. And this is all the work of the Farimba, essentially, with maybe about 8 sofas in the back. So now that these Donzos are starting to get upgraded just by the barracks, more economic units getting attacked for Chuckfrancis, and some worker kills going down. Chuck is going to take this fight against XFactor. Lots of javelin throwers here, but essentially only cavalry units. These Donzos are going to be pretty effective. They just hit veteran status in the making of that battle. Donzos are going to essentially clear them up. Now, these Land Snakes, pretty good units against the Malians. They're going to be good against Donzos and all that. But just how many that were here, all you needed was a good maybe 8 to 10 in that fight, and his entire army gets disintegrated. Land Snake's trying to get good damage on these javelin throwers, but they're going to need a couple more in order to completely take them out. Villagers going down left and right. Economic count 55 to 47, while the military count overwhelmingly favorable for X Factor. And one of the most annoying things about these javelin throwers is the fact that they can sit under town center fire and just take hit after hit. The sofas can obviously do that too. But these javelin throwers are just so nasty. Just because they're out of range, they're able to pick off so many villagers. Chuckfrancis cannot possibly deal with that javelin thrower mass. X Factor picked the right unit out of the Farimba, and because of that, X Factor takes the game 3 in this particular series. We did not catch the first two, but this third one going in for X Factor. And again, this is Molly versus HRE in a nutshell. And I don't think, because a lot of people try to go castle with your HRE, the castle age units for HRE just get absolutely shredded by Farimba units. This feudal strategy going for, the economic surplus and that the increase in economic units seems like it doesn't work too well either, just because of how long it takes to get that TC up and running and going and then hitting castle, and by that time your opponent already has 30 castle age units, so you're always playing from behind. So as far as the HRE strategy to beat Malians, don't look at me. I don't have it. And as you can see here, just based on resources, gold being the only thing that matters for X Factor, and able to pump that into military units. But that is game 3.
We want to thank our MetaPlays website subscribers. Your contribution helps us keep the project sustainable. As we reach higher subscription goals, you are helping us cover more and more behind-the-scenes costs, such as video editing. Check out our subscription page using the link in the description, and remember to collect your perks. We will see you the next time.